Good evening, Belize, and welcome to XTV's news broadcast for Wednesday, April 2, 2025. Making the headlines tonight, Kumpel moves over as CEO on Monday. Baseball Federation hopes to construct state-of-the-art facility in Biscayne. CEO praises proactive Placencia residents. And renovation works at National Assembly on schedule. We take our first break and return with the news in detail. Welcome back with your news. I am Drea Espinosa. It's the end of an era as Commissioner of Police Chester Williams today conducted his last interview in that role on the sidelines of the first quarter ComStat meeting at the National Police Training Academy in Belmopan. While there were reports that Williams had asked for a transition period that could have gone up to 3 months, on Monday it was reported that the CEO in the Ministry of Home Affairs had issued a letter to the Compol outlining a timeline for his departure and indicating he could only act in a caretaker role until he leaves. While the commissioner had said the CEO had no authority to issue such a letter, it now appears that the Minister of Home Affairs, Honorable Kareem Musa, has been successful in speeding up Williams' departure, though he will not admit Williams is being pushed out for someone new. Minister Musa today told the media he knows that Williams will succeed in his new role, especially when it comes to road safety.
His record speaks for itself. I think you can look at his entire tenure in office. It has been an accomplished record. He has done so much, not just in terms of reducing crime, but for the welfare of the police officers in our department. And so it's a difficult thing because I know the commissioner still has a lot of life left in him. He's only 51 years old. But the Prime Minister and myself discussed the future because we certainly would never want to lose our commissioner and his capabilities, his capacity. As you know, last year we had the most traffic fatalities probably in the history of the country. Our commissioner can back me up on that. And we can see where even while he was commissioner, sharing with us at the cabinet level a lot of strategies that can be put in place to make our highways a lot safer. And so we thought it fitting, myself and the Prime Minister of course, to elevate our Commissioner of Police to the position of the Chief Executive Officer in that ministry, as well as the Constitutional Affairs and Indigenous Affairs.
Musa said the letter was not intended to be rude, but was meant instead to preserve the status quo.
During this transition period, while it is that we would hope for a seamless, smooth transition, there are certain actions and certain decisions that can be made that can affect the department moving forward. And so it was just a reminder in terms of the transition. You know, it has cost implications for transfers, it has cost implications for promotions. Let us try to make the transition as smooth as possible because not necessarily the new Commissioner of Police would agree to these transfers. And so we have to make sure that we preserve the status quo as best as possible. And so that's how I see the letter, just saying let us preserve the status quo as we transition.
Williams today was left to respond to the reports that he was pushed out and is leaving the department in less than an amicable terms. He acknowledged that he was taken aback by the CEO's letter, especially since he says he had discussed with the minister all the work he intended to conclude before his departure.
To be able to avoid any fighting, in-house fighting, I decided that, you know what, it's best I pack up and leave and move over to my new area of responsibility.
So your departure was, to some extent, because you know I have no conflict, hastened by that procedural incorrect letter?
Certainly it had to do with, and I will be honest, it has a lot to do with that indeed. I don't want to have a fight with nobody. It is unnecessary. We already have the criminals out there that we need to fight. I don't think there's any need for us to fight among ourselves. So to avoid any issues with anybody, I said, you know what, it's best I move and get out of people's way.
For his part, the minister disagreed with the characterization that he wanted Williams out and heaped praises on him. He said that Williams had indicated he wanted to leave his post this year and added that his new CEO role is a promotion.
The commissioner this morning mentioned to me that he will be moving over to his CEO duties. As you know, that itself is a very demanding task to get over there. As early as next Monday, we meet with the Prime Minister this afternoon at 3:30 to discuss the way forward for the transition. I think the commissioner late last year, early this year, had mentioned to the media and to the nation that he would be departing this year. It's not pushing out at all. It's elevating, graduating even to the next level of CEO. He did indicate that he wanted to serve in his capacity as a public servant. He wanted to continue in that role, and to me that is an elevation. You might not see it that way, but it is an elevation.
But CEO of Home Affairs would have been a natural progression.
We already have a CEO of Home Affairs, and like I said, the Prime Minister felt it fitting that the Commissioner would do an excellent job. As you know, we have not had a CEO in the Ministry of Transport, I think at least for 6 months prior to the election, and so there was that vacancy there.
Now that things have come to a head in this manner, Williams says he's excited for the new challenge ahead and said that Friday should be his last day as Commissioner of Police. He says he has lots of plans for his new ministry.
I'm excited about moving over to the Ministry of Transport, Constitutional Reform, Indigenous People Affairs, and Religious Affairs. It is going to be a new challenge for me, and I am the type of person from the time I know myself growing up, I have always embraced challenges, and I always ensure that whatever task is given to me, that I do it to the best of my ability, that I develop a passion and love for it. And I do believe that once that is done, then you are going to be successful at whatever task. And so I am grateful to the Prime Minister for the opportunity being given to me to move over to that ministry, and I assure him that I will do my utmost best making sure that we improve road safety in particular in this country. Like Minister rightly alluded in his interview that last year was a very deadly year on our highways, and we cannot have another year of that. There's going to be a greater need for the police and DOT to work more closely together. And just this morning I said to the Minister that I would like to establish a police liaison within the Ministry of Transport, not within the Department of Traffic. Again, with a view to ensure that we remain on the same page when it comes to road safety. There's a lot that we need to do in terms of improving the laws to be able to hold drunk drivers, reckless drivers more accountable for their actions. So I have some plans that I have been working on even while being Commissioner of Police. I will now be able to move over and get those plans going and see how best we can bring them into fruition to be able to enhance road safety in this country.
Now that the departure date for Commissioner of Police Chester Williams has been confirmed, Minister Kareem Musa says he expects the transition of Dr. Richard Rosado assuming the post of Commissioner of Police to be a smooth one. He does admit that Dr. Rosado is more reserved than the media-friendly Chester Williams and said they may have to consider getting a public relations officer to ensure the media is kept abreast of police matters in a timely manner.
I work very closely with the commissioner, with the deputies of our department, with the assistant commissioners of our department. I have a good relationship with all of them. In my opinion, it's going to be a smooth transition. Yes, you might say to yourself that you will not have the level of relationship that the media has with the Commissioner of Police, because I think that the future commissioner is a lot more reserved, so to speak, and so perhaps we would need to fill the void, because this is by far the most transparent commissioner, but we need to continue to fill that void to make sure the media gets the information that it needs each and every day. And so filling that void perhaps with a public relations officer, I don't think anybody could have done a better job than the commissioner in terms of representing what is taking place within our department and the crime statistics. And so moving forward, you could see greater involvement of other personnel, an academic, as you said, Dr. Rosado, and greater strategy. Not that this commissioner didn't have great strategy, because we have all the results to prove it. So it will be a continuation of the good strategy that our commissioner has put in place.
In some exciting sporting news, the Baseball Federation of Belize, BFB, is looking to revive the sport. One of the projects the Federation has as a long-term goal is to construct a state-of-the-art baseball facility in Biscayne, Belize District. President of the BFB, Carleon Flores, explained that Biscayne is the location where the Minister of Natural Resources, Honorable Cordell Hyde, was able to locate 10 acres of land that the BFB could purchase. Flores explained that their vision is to start a regional baseball academy to develop future stars from the region.
The vision is to construct a state-of-the-art baseball stadium. There, we will have at least 3 baseball fields. I'm thinking really big. One for Little League level, one for professional baseball, at least 400 feet from the center field to the base. And that's professional. And then a softball pitch, because that's what we intend to do long term. Then we're going to have, of course, dorms, at least 60 rooms. Those 60 rooms, dorms will be we will cater for, our long-term goal is to cater for people to come from like Central America, Central America to come to our academy. We're going to be training talents per year. We're going to train, like for example, get 60 young persons from around the world, particularly Central America, to come to our academy, all right? And then they will train, develop them to world-class level, send them out, and then that's going to be the recycling process. And so by doing that, then we'll be able to develop our own talent and develop other talent. So it's going to become a state-of-the-art entity, like one that is in the Dominican Republic. So that's the long-term goal. And of course, we will have gyms and all those different things that state-of-the-art baseball structure should have. Now, we don't have a timeline because we want to enter into a partnership with the government of Belize because we want to have sports tourism in Belize, whereby we can market our sports like America does, all right? And I think that's another level that we need political will. We need politicians to step up to the plate and start to make these significant investments, sustainable investments, because without these investments, we will keep having what we have, basically nothing. We need to be very creative as a nation with how, we create opportunities for people to strive each and every day. So I think that if they will partner with us, this could bring in millions of dollars into our country. Coach William Larson, who is from Chicago area, he has been instrumental in helping me with developing a developmental plan for the 10 acres of land, and he estimated at the time it was going to be $3 million, but I think he was thinking about just one satellite field, but the entire property is going to take more than that.
Josue Carballo, the Chief Tourism Officer in the Ministry of Tourism, Diaspora Relations, Youth and Sports, told the media today that upgrading sporting facilities across the country will be a focus of the current administration. He also said the ministry believes that the BFB's plan will be a success.
The idea, definitely, they're the big sports that have been consistent in cycling, in football, basketball, and so on. The facilities will be uplifted, and then the idea is to create multi-purpose facilities because similar, like the softball pitches can be retrofitted as well to be used for baseball. So there are different ways to do it, and we heard today that they do have a place where they do want to further develop. So all of that, we have to see the growth that is happening. We're pretty sure it will be a success, and the growth of facilities will be high in the priority list of this current administration.
The National Assembly of Belize has been reduced to a shell as the renovation works funded by the Taiwan government get underway. The chamber where parliamentarians gather has been cleaned out, and the government's chief engineer, Yvondale Moody, told us today that work will soon begin to reinstall the electrical and air conditioning fixtures. He said the work is on schedule to be completed by September.
We're currently doing the interior walls for the National Assembly. The contractor is also working on the exterior walls. We are also working on the elevator shaft. We have basically gutted out the entire inside of the National Assembly building where the house meetings are usually held. So there's basically nothing in there. It's basically open. And so we're trying to bring back now in everything, starting with the ceiling, the installation of electricals, new air conditions. So it's getting a full rehabilitation. We expect that those works will be completed by September, October. That is still our deadline. We believe that we're on target still for that timeline, unless we have some delays in the delivery of materials. But from my visit last week, we're still on schedule for completion in September.
After the break, Kumpel said police officers in plane landing investigation received no special treatment. Stay with us. As we reported earlier this week, 2 police officers were investigated in the ongoing suspected drug plane landing last week in rural Toledo near the Guatemala border. Today, the Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, refuted claims that the 2 officers received any special treatment. Williams said they were given the same privileges as any other citizens and added they both cooperated with the investigation.
Like you rightly said, those officers were brought in, just as we would have done with any ordinary person. They went through the mills. We put together an investigative team of senior investigators to investigate that matter, to see if there was anything credible to the information. And so far, we have not been able to unearth anything to indicate that those officers were involved in that plane landing. Of course, yes, the investigation remains active. They have also agreed for the devices to be searched. That is going to be done by the DA agents. And again, the fact that they agreed to that shows how transparent they want to be with the investigation in terms of cooperating. I'm not going to put the cart ahead of the horse at this time. I believe that we can be judged in terms of what we did. Once we received information, they were brought in, they were interviewed, and they remain in custody for 48 hours like we would have done any other person. So there was no special treatment given to them. But at the end of the day, we have to be fair to people. If there's nothing to indicate anything further of their involvement, then they have to be released from custody while the investigation continues.
The names of the 2 officers allegedly appeared on a list of people who received $50,000 to facilitate the plane landing. Williams denied that this was the case. He also refuted claims that these 2 officers were shown preferential treatment when compared to an officer up north who was dismissed after his name appeared on a list of police officers allegedly involved with narco elements. Williams said the 2 circumstances are not comparable.
You cannot compare this with the previous case. It's like comparing night and day. You know, I'm sure, the circumstances involving that particular officer. It is not just today that we have been hearing about him. It has been for a very, very long time. There have been numerous information obtained as it relates to his involvement in these illicit activities, and so it's not the same. So I would hope that you divorce the 2 and do not keep them together.
Williams said that a village council member from Toledo and a Guatemalan are also being investigated in this case.
We had received a number of information, and based on that, again, the police, the investigative team again, had moved into that area and they had detained 2 individuals from there. What we were getting was that they were involved in some respect or some aspect of the plane landing. They were brought in, they were interviewed. I think there was information on one cell phone showing the tree that was cut to the entrance of where the plane had landed, which would suggest that he knew of it. Again, our interviews in respect of that matter is ongoing. The investigators are still out trying to collect as much as they can to see if we'll be able to gather a little bit more so that we'll be able to charge these people if the evidence should surface.
On March 10th, Placencia residents took matters into their own hands to remove rocks that were placed on a portion of the beachfront in an effort to stop beach erosion. The residents considered that the measure was instead contributing to beach erosion, and they went about removing the rocks. We were told that the residents had notified authorities of their plans, but they felt the response and approval was not being given in a timely manner, and so they acted. Police were therefore called out to the area. On Tuesday, we asked the CEO for the Ministry of Blue Economy, Beverly Wade, if she was aware of what happened.
My understanding about it is that the individual property had put in some measures, some structures to try and alleviate and relieve the erosion that was happening on that property. Apparently that effort wasn't permitted, and so the Department of Environment had instructed them that they should now remove what was put in there. The actual enforcement of that stop order, my understanding is that there was a gap between that and it actually being done, and that is where the community went down there to do it. 2 things I see there. I very much appreciate the passion from the community, and I think that is what we need. In fact, as Belizeans, that's one of the things that I've always been proud of. We have strong ownership of our space. But I would want to encourage the communities also to coordinate and if needs be to call the relevant authorities, because what we don't want is a kind of situation where you have communities going in and just taking actions within their own hand. But my understanding is that is what has occurred there, and I go back to my original comment that I think that it's time for us to look at the issue more holistically, and for us to put in some more national policy that would address and to help both developers, communities, and all of us have a better understanding of how do we now help this situation.
Recent years and some residents are frustrated by what they deem as the slow response of government. One of the government entities that have some oversight on the matter is the Ministry of the Blue Economy. We asked the CEO for the ministry, Beverly Wade, how quickly they are responding.
I think there's frustration. You could look at frustration at all levels. The bottom line is that we're dealing with something that globally everybody's grappling with. Yes, there are factors that are impacting the rate of erosion in the area, but a big part of it also has to do with climate change. And the government has been doing studies. I know that there were studies that were being done through the 5Cs office, through PAC, through the Adaptation Fund. And so I think it's a matter of us now moving towards harnessing what the studies are saying and to see what practically can be done. Because that's the other thing about it, we have to see what practically can also be done. So I think that there's frustration as an individual that we are in a space that is so being impacted, and we have to try and find solutions for it. And even the whole idea of solutions are not easily identified. As Prime Minister said in his speech, these are complex matters that we're dealing with, and I think the most encouraging approach and the most encouraging way is through collective participation, collective input, and for us to say that we have to look at a strategy collectively.
Wade says it is time for Belize to develop a national policy and plan of action to address the issue holistically.
It's time for us to look at a shoreline policy and to see now how do we now collectively and inclusively bring the science and the expertise together, bring the communities together, and develop such a policy so that we can have a hymn sheet that we can all sing from. What is happening is that people are individually and properties are individually trying to find their own solutions to what are happening. And so what we need now is a more comprehensive framework to address that. So in my view, frameworks and policies will never be sufficient to keep up. I guess keep up is the important term there, because it shows that we have to be versatile enough, we have to be flexible enough, that we identify that there are things that we have to keep up with, and we have to ensure that we're in a position to address them.
The CompStat meeting to discuss the crime figures of the first quarter of 2025 was held this morning in Belmopan. The Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, said that when compared to the first quarter of 2024, murders are down 4 cases and major crimes are down 7%. He said he also spoke to his commanders, letting them know this was his final CompStat meeting as commissioner, and urged them to cooperate with incoming Commissioner of Police, Dr. Richard Rosado.
It looks good. It's not what I would want it to be, certainly. You would know that I am very big in terms of preserving life. Those type of crimes that affects life, like murders and attempted murders and so forth, are the ones that I would normally do my best to guard against. And again, for the simple fact that they do affect the livelihoods of others. Nonetheless, the murders are down compared to last year. We are 4 below last year's figure. And overall major crime is down by 7% compared to the same period last year. So I am happy that I am handing over to the incoming commissioner with a crime rate below last year's figure, and that for me is good. So moving forward, I just hope that the police department is going to be able to continue to function the way we have functioned over the past 6+ years. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and the public depend heavily on the effectiveness of the police. And so making sure that the police remain effective is important, and that's the reason why this morning in the ComStat I made mention to the commanders that this is going to be my last ComStat with them. And I encourage them to show their support behind the incoming commissioner, because at the end of the day, they cannot be divided. Unity is strength, and if they remain united, they will be able to overcome whatever challenge or challenges that may come their way.
Minister of Home Affairs, Honorable Kareem Musa, said that while the numbers are promising, he doesn't want the department to become complacent. He said that there is still some unrest among the gangs of Belize City and revealed that a state of emergency is still on the table, but it is something that requires more discussion among stakeholders.
My message this morning, while it is that we can see a decrease in major crimes for the first quarter as compared to the first quarter of 2024, is that we cannot get disillusioned by the good numbers, we cannot get complacent by the good numbers, but rather we have to step up our efforts, because last year I can recall the first quarter being a very difficult and challenging year for the police, as was this year. And so in similar fashion as we did last year, we will have to increase our efforts and certainly try to make better in the second quarter.
But we know that the gang tensions are high, there are shootings, a couple of murders. Will you go for an SOE?
That was on the table, and I can say here now that it still is on the table. We were monitoring it closer to the election, where it was extremely heightened. And I think we came fairly close, Commissioner, to declaring a state of emergency. But it was never done. It was quelled for a bit, but again, now we see other areas are sparking. I know at the time of the election, we were specifically looking at 6 different gangs in Belize City that were going to be a part of the SOE. We're still monitoring those 6 gangs, and then there are a couple others now as well. And so that is still on the table. I'm not saying that we're going to declare one this week or next, but it certainly is on the table. We're in discussions.
In more police news, 36-year-old Stanley Flowers, a fisherman from Crooked Tree Village, Belize District, has been slapped with multiple charges in connection with Sunday's shooting of a police officer outside of a nightclub along the Philip Golson Highway. Flowers was charged with 1 count of attempted murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of damage to property, 1 count of dangerous harm, and 1 count of use of deadly means of harm. He was detained during a chase as he fled the scene outside the nightclub. Police reported that they had to knock him off his getaway motorcycle. After the break, Chief Engineer appeals for the public's cooperation in respecting government property. Stay tuned.
20 years ago, we built a
Over the weekend, the Ministry of Infrastructure Development called out people who flocked to the roadside during ongoing or recently completed infrastructure road works to siphon off construction material for their personal use. Today, when we spoke with the chief engineer, Evandale Moody, he admitted that this is a common occurrence and added that the vandalism of government property and roadside disposal of garbage are also big problems.
It's very common for that to occur. They usually remove signs. If we leave culverts, they would remove the culverts. They take down the signs, the traffic signs, they remove those, we get them vandalized. It's very disheartening, honestly, because while we at the MIDH we're trying to do our best to improve our road network, improve safety for motorists, we still have that problem with our own citizens vandalizing our infrastructure and also removing the materials from the road shoulders. When they remove the materials from the road shoulders, that makes it easier whenever we go into the rainy season for us to have erosions. And then that would result in scores. And then when we have road failures, then they would say, we are fixing the road again. And it's a lot of different factors that affect it, and that is one. And so it was necessary for us to put it out there so that the public could be aware, but it continues to happen. What continues to bother us is also the littering. That is something that we've tried our best, honestly, to keep our highways clean. I know that you have noticed that we have workmen every single day picking up garbage, and we go back the next week and it's the same volume of garbage. So we know that we have our citizens that are disposing of garbage on the highway. They dump refrigerators, air conditions, all kind of things. And so we have to keep cleaning it, but I would just like to get the message out there that we're trying our best to keep our highways clean. I mean, it's not just for us, it's for our visitors as well. And we are a huge destination for tourism. So if we could get that message out that littering is not helping us, it's bringing us backway. If we could put that out, I think that would be very helpful to the entire country.
In court news, 29-year-old Chantel Williams, who fatally stabbed her boyfriend, 39-year-old Louis Adolphus, during a domestic dispute in August 2022, has been found guilty of manslaughter. She appeared for a verdict this week before High Court Justice Derek Sylvester and will be sentenced on April 29. On August 2nd, the couple got into an altercation at around 1 a.m., reportedly due to jealousy. It ended in Adolphus being stabbed to the shoulder. Williams turned herself in to police immediately after and indicated that Adolphus required medical attention. During the trial, Adolphus's brother, Emerson Dominguez, a police officer who lived in Biscayne Village, testified that just before the fatal attack, Adolphus had called him asking for help in disarming Williams, from whom he had already taken a first knife. A no-case submission by the defense attorney Leroy Banner was not upheld. The Crown called 11 witnesses in the case. Officials from the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, are in Belize to conduct an annual portfolio review of key development projects and financial strategies. These include the Coastal Plains Highway Project and the Philip Golson Highway Project. Chief Engineer at the Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Housing, Evandale Moody, that Belize is viewed in a positive light regionally when it comes to implementation.
This is the high-level team that has come from the bank, and honestly, we're very pleased and proud as a country to know that they have recognized us as, I believe, the best in the Caribbean, to be honest, in terms of project implementation, using funds and resources from the Caribbean Development Bank. As you may be aware, the two projects that we discussed with them yesterday was the 6th Road Coastal Highway Upgrading Project, and also the 7th Road, the Philip Golson Highway Upgrading Project. And both those projects have been successfully completed by the Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Housing. And so based on the visits that they have made over the last 3 years, we have been successful in the completion of these projects. And so we're very pleased to have received those remarks from the bank as well.
We asked about the assessment of the bank officials in relation to the Coastal Plains Highway that saw some issues in a couple areas.
They have indicated that the project was successful and they were very pleased with the outcome of the project. The type of surface dressing that we utilized on that project was the chip and seal. However, that was the way it was designed at the time when the project was presented to the bank, and so we had to follow through with that type of pavement. Of course, we have the hot mix that we're now using, and you also have concrete. We have concreted a few sections along the coastal highway, which are basically the floodways that we have discussed on numerous occasions. But the surface dressing that we have placed is holding up, it's doing well. And where we had deficiencies was where we had some flooding as a result of land clearing and so forth. And so those areas we have rehabilitated and converted those sections to concrete. And we're also looking at some other sections that we want to concrete as well, so that we could allow water to pass over it in the event we have excessive flooding.
Also on the agenda for the CDB visit was climate finance, including funding opportunities from the CDB and strategies to enhance Belize's resilience to climate change. In particular, discussions centered around the development of multi-hazard impact-based forecasting and early warning systems for the Belize River watershed. Funding from the CDB has also been accessed by Belize Water Services, BWS, and they presented updates on projects aimed at improving our water infrastructure and sustainability. And there was a fire after 8 Tuesday night on Green Street in Balama Phase 4 in Belize City. It's a case of another unoccupied house going up in flames. The house was a wooden 20 by 24 structure. Officer commanding the Belize District for the National Fire Service, Gladstone Buckner, shared details.
It was an abandoned building, and the owner is Mr. Eric Glenn, and he informed us that nobody lived in the building since November. It did not have any utilities, no electricity, anything of the sort.
So if it didn't have any electricity, how did you manage to establish the cause of the fire?
Well, the cause of the fire, we haven't determined that as yet, but we know the location where it starts, on the western side of the building. From investigation from neighbors, what we got information, the back window was open on that day.
So somebody had broken into the home?
Well, we can't see that somebody had gone in. Probably the wind blowing in, we don't know, but they found it open.
Buckner reiterated the need for something to be done about abandoned buildings. And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. The repeat can be viewed on the station later tonight at 9 and again tomorrow at midday. Join us again tomorrow for another news broadcast. I am Drea Espinosa. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.